All right, welcome everybody. We'll call the meeting to order. It's just after 7 on May 21st. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 land and the traditional homeland of the Métis people. I'm also advising everyone that this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to our website tomorrow. Thanks as always to the senior social scene for providing us with the space and the setup and the takedown for these meetings out here. And introductions starting with you, Erwin, if you want to pick up your mic.
Good evening, everyone. Erwin Kumk is my name, and what a beautiful night.
Hello, I'm Graham Randall, and it's so nice to see you here. Thank you.
Penny McMorris.
Raymond Morrow, CAO.
Steve Axworthy.
Mike Bartmanovich, and when I'm usually here, I'm saying under the B7, but it's great to have you all here tonight.
Thank you, everybody. An adoption of the agenda, which was circulated to council and is at the back, I believe. Be it resolved, the agenda be adopted as presented. I need a mover and a seconder, and then we can add or delete. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Randall, seconded by Councillor Kumka. Be it resolved, the agenda be adopted as presented. Any additions? Any deletions? Mr. Our one delegation, are they coming?
As far as I know, our delegation is not coming, so I would suggest that is a deletion.
Okay. That's Mr. Remillard. Mike, did you want to add the fire protection workshop approval?
I will defer.
You will defer. Not today. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. All right. Hearing no further additions or deletions, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Minutes of the May 7th, 2019 regular meeting of council were circulated to all council members. Be it resolved, the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on May 7th, 2019 be adopted as presented. I'll hand this to Steve. Sorry. Moved by Councillor Axworthy, seconded by Councillor Bartmanovich. Be it resolved, the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on May 7th be adopted as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. No in camera. Our delegation, no Mr. Remillard. So up next is Stuart Justa on paths, highway speed, and King Edward fire break.
Okay, thank you for hearing me. The fire break, I think I'll leave till next time. It's such a nice day today, and you've graciously allowed me to do 2. So I'll leave the fire break, but thank you for that. And I just, before beginning, just like to thank the council, I guess with Erwin's help, that you have provided 3 more hours per week at VB for the library. That's wonderful. Okay, so I can thank you for that. Now, okay, I guess the first thing is speed on highway. I think this has sort of come up before at Victoria Beach, but actually, because of something that happened to me, I'm becoming far more serious about it. We reduced the speed to 70 from the May long to the end of the September long weekend, correct?
Yes.
Okay. However, immediately at the end of the September long weekend, the speed goes up to 100. Okay. Basically, if it's good to reduce it from May long to September long, why not logically extend it to October long, since there's roughly the same amount of people that will be out? So that's the first thing. That's a logical question. Secondly, as regards 70 kilometers an hour and 100 kilometers an hour, I don't think any of you would disagree with the following two statements. You have greater control of your car you have greater control of your car at 70k an hour than 100k an hour. Secondly, the stopping distance is shorter at 70k versus 100. The other thing that we have on our road are obstacles. We have geese. Okay. What happened to me 3 weeks ago, I'm driving to Safi's, as I usually do. I'm going 70 because that's what I think is a good speed. And suddenly, right in front of me, in my lane, a big, massive goose decides to land on the highway. Okay. In other words, I've been going a bit faster. Maybe I might have missed it, but also might have hit my windshield. That's a big 20-pound thing. Okay, so I think if people are going 100, there can be problems. And finally, the distance is 2K between David Road and Safi Road. Going at 100 versus 70 means you will save exactly 30 seconds on your trip. Okay. Now, this is not 30 seconds of your life, because I assume that your brain is working while you're in your car. It's not as if you suddenly like, hey, you're dead for 30 seconds, now you're alive, right? You're not losing time. Of course, I exaggerate because there's a 30-second drive back. So it's a 1-minute round trip. So to me, it seems very logical that 70 is a good speed. Traverse Bay Road is 70, right? It's a longer stretch of road than the highway between David Road and Safi. So for your consideration, maybe you should sort of canvass the community a bit and decide whether or not this is a good idea. I know in the past a few people have opposed it, possibly because they're older and behind their car wheel they can go faster rather than younger people, right, when walking. So maybe compensation factors there, but I really think 70 should be the speed for that 2-kilometer stretch of road. Any questions?
It has come up before, you're right.
Yeah, it has, I know.
Yep.
But I don't know the results, and I don't know how discussion went and whatever. So it's just, I think that you're a new council, you have new eyes, and that perhaps you should be looking at this carefully. Okay?
We will take that under consideration. Thank you.
Okay. Secondly, I watched the previous meeting, okay, and I listened to Dan Lester's presentation about the paths and the subsequent speaker that I could not really hear very well, but I sort of got the gist. And Penny, I think, made a very correct statement almost at the beginning of the presentation, and this is what you said. I mean, I think this reflects the views of pretty much everybody within the vehicle-restricted area. I don't think that anything at VB needs to be done except maybe gates. Okay, I think that you hit it right on. I think you know the paths fairly well, and I think you know that what we think of them. They're sort of part of our heritage, right? They've been around for 80-odd years. We use them. And because of where I live, actually, I see more use than anybody. I know everybody who uses them pretty much. I know the one person who commutes every day for 6 months. You know who that is, Penny?
I can think of a couple people who...
Well, Susan Spence.
Yeah.
Okay, Susan's every day, right? Yeah. I know families from Hampton and from Zielinski area that during the summer period, they commute every day, extended families, because they're down at the tennis courts every day, taking up my tennis time. Okay, so we have lots of people who use the trails. I also know the surface of them. And the trail that goes from 8th Avenue to Macaulay or from Macaulay to 8th, depending upon which way you look at it, there's basically 2 fairly large rocks that might be a bit of a problem and 2 tree roots. And that's it. Okay, it's a beaten down earth path. It's in great condition. The other paths, the one other path that probably has a bit of rock on it, about 30 meters, is on the path between the gravel pit and the sports field. But if you go safely down it, you don't exceed speed, you're okay. So to me, the trails do not really need any kind of work. So I guess the clarification I'm going to ask you, in Dan Lester's proposal, is there any mention of doing any kind of work whatsoever on those trails west of the 504?
I believe there was some interest on his part in doing some work in there, and we have, under business arising from the previous meeting, some further discussion on Dan's presentation.
Right, no, I realize that. I thought there was, but he didn't really bring it out. Okay, so there are a number of other issues I think that are important. Penny, as you pointed out, there already is a trail on the east side of 504. Okay, that it comes back to the highway for 100 meters, then goes back in. It's not a direct line of sight or a direct bird flight, whatever you want to call it, but it already exists. So to me, it's not necessary that we actually do that. The other thing is, okay, among the paths, is that, there was a comment made that because you're getting some money or some free stuff, so-called free stuff, from Dan Lester, that you sort of would be spending 20 cents on the dollar if you agree to any of his proposals. Okay, I'll make your proposal. I own a building supply company. I'm willing to give Victoria Beach $800,000 to build a building. You provide $200,000, so you're getting 20 cents on the dollar. It'll be a municipal brothel. Okay, would you take it? No. In other words, if you don't need it, don't take it, right? Okay? Pardon?
I'm not going to ask the community if they want that.
I know. So obviously, but in other words, if you don't need it, in other words, it's not a bargain, right? It's not really a bargain if it's not needed. As to gates, there may be locked gates, I think, don't really work if there's an emergency because people have to have keys for them. And I think if you already have your rocks there, they stop vehicles, and it's a 2-kilometer stretch on the path. I don't think there's any emergency that will require sort of municipal emergency vehicles on that route, okay? So I really think it's may not be necessary to spend especially a lot of money on it. Okay, I think that's probably about it. The other thing with Dan Lester, he represents something called the RNNTA, Red River Trails North Association?
Red River North Trails Association.
That's right. So are you dealing with him as an individual when it comes to money and contracting, or are you dealing with that organization in terms, who wants the money? Who do you make the check out to?
I can't remember. RRNTA. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I sort of went on the web and decided, well, you should really do due diligence. Who's getting the money? There is no real, it's called a nonprofit,
Right.
but there is no board of directors that I can find.
There is.
Actually, there is a board of directors, but it's not listed.
That could be.
Okay. And secondly, there are no financial statements.
Correct.
Okay. So just that's due diligence, sort of, you want to know who you're dealing with.
Yeah, we've done that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions that you have?
Go ahead.
Sure, Mike. We are contemplating a new building for recycling.
If I did have $800,000, I don't think you get much of it, really.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions? So in other words, I'm really opposed to any work whatsoever on the established trails. And I think noticing this last weekend, how many people are using them without any fear or anything, I think that there is no necessity to do any work on them.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to committee reports. Public Works.
Okay, on behalf of Mike and myself, Public Works. Public Works has been extremely busy during the start of the active season. I'm just going to run through a bit of an overview. Maintenance on the vehicles is continuing. Garbage recycling collection continues. Water samples for Victoria Beach and Albert Beach are being attended to. 2 new staff members, Reese Anderson and Peter Danchuk, have been hired, which enhances our overall capabilities. The new backhoe has been delivered. Grading has started on the roads. Public Works crews have been walking the water lines and preparing for seasonal water startup. The seasonal water was on prior to May long weekend, and those of you who visit our website will notice that this morning the routine boil water associated with startup was lifted this morning. So congratulations to Public Works to get the water up and running on time. A new 3/4-ton truck has arrived. Well, they needed that. Fabrication of new lighter weight aluminum garbage container lids. It's been done, it's been tested, looked at. Mike, I believe we're proceeding now to retrofit the rest of the lids with the rest of the containers with lids that are much more people friendly and much less bear friendly. They work good, they look good. The graveling of the roads has started, and the Canutt Stairs railing has been modified due to safety concerns. And anytime talking about Public Works, if you'll bear with me, I always like to put in a plug for our service request system on our website. Use it, it works. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Moving on to finance, Erwin.
Reporting for our status at April 30th, the reserves of the rural municipality of Victoria Beach have dropped from $600,000 down to $472,000. Accounts receivable have dropped from $222,000 to $159,000. That's good. That means we're collecting our receivables. Thirdly, our cash position has dropped from $190,000 to $167,000. And our operating deficit at the end of April had increased from $271,000 to $369,000. The municipality will continue to have an operating deficit until the end of July, when annual tax revenues start to flow in. Operating deficits are expected at this time of year because we have continuing expenses without any real significant revenue flows. Essentially, what is happening now is we're using up our accumulated surplus to fund our current seasonal deficit, and that will be remedied once the July tax rolls start to be paid.
Thanks, Erwin. Moving on to protective services, Steve.
So for the protective services, there were 17 more calls this time this year than there was last year. It's nothing to be overly worried about. The main thing is that Gary is taking a more active approach. So he's just simply registering when he is initiating his actions rather than just saying when he was called. So it's just basically more effective stats taking. There are two big notes for police, which is that for the dogs that are off leash, if an owner is found to have their dog off leash and they are patrolling the beach on their own, then the owner will be ticketed. And then the last one is that with the fire permits have not been released yet. They are completed, and we will be having them on the website fairly shortly. But it's really important to note that when there is a fire ban, and this is in the new fire permit, that it's all fires, even if you do have yourself a permit. So if you see the sign that says fire ban, then you are not allowed to have a fire on your property, and that will be enforced. In terms of fire and rescue, there were a total of 5 calls out, 5 calls this month. 2 were in Victoria Beach and 3 in the RM of Alexander. The 2 calls in Victoria Beach were medical related. One of the calls turned into a search and rescue. The 3 calls in Alexander were of a medical nature, and 1 call overall was life-threatening emergency.
If I could just add on the protective services, we're having another open house for the public on our Fire Smart and fire prevention initiatives on Wednesday, July 10th, here at the social scene from 6:30 to 8:30. Please come out and see the Fire Smart presentation and learn about how you can possibly join in as a volunteer and help protect our community in the case of a disaster or critical event. 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. on Wednesday, July 10th. Thank you, Steve. Moving on to special events. Please watch our VB 100th anniversary Facebook page for updates on our 100th anniversary. Things are coming together. Golf course. Who's talking about the golf course?
Just very quickly, thanks to Councillor Axworthy and a group of friends of his who went out to the tee boxes on the 6th and 7th holes and removed the snow fence that has been presenting a safety hazard for some time now. And the plan was to get them out using golf course staff as soon as the frost was out of the ground. And I'd like to personally thank Steve, and if you'll pass on my thanks to your crew who helped you out. Not only did they clean the fence out, but went back and afterwards and made absolutely sure that they got all of the wood and the wire. My understanding is that the wood almost disintegrated as soon as they went to touch it. So it was high time that it left. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Municipal buildings, Graham?
Me again, on behalf of me and Mike. Probably the busiest time of the year for Municipal Buildings Committee, getting them ready. And we were a little slow getting started thanks to the late spring thaw. Just a quick rundown. The Moonlight Inn was cleaned up and properly and opened on schedule. The floor repairs that were required are being done there today. Work on the bakery is being attended to as we speak. Mike, the golf course overhead door, they're coming out on the 23rd to put that in for us. The gate office carpentry and signage is in the works. Some work contracted for VB Store. The Pierpoint Privy, the materials have been ordered, and we expect to get the tank in the ground before the vehicle restricted period drops down on us. Elbert Beach Pump House quotes pending. That'll take a while to develop. We're getting quotes on the painting of the doctor's office. We've got one so far. We hope to be able to award that in the near future. And the Public Works building, the issue of the required maintenance of the HVAC system, Curtis assures me that he's found a supplier contractor who's going to undertake that for us, much to the relief of our Public Works guys, because it's a pain in the ass job. And that sums up municipal buildings. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. Doctor Committee, Erwin?
Just wanted to add our thanks to Kathy McKibben for working with Graham Randall to detail out the scope of work with respect to the painting, and once we receive one more quote or so, we'll be then awarding the contract. But thank you very much, Kathy. Appreciate your efforts.
Yes, she was a great help. Thank you for mentioning that.
Thanks very much. Communications, Mike or Steve?
Not too much to communicate, but me and Mike are working on our first letters to be put up for the community, so we can inform everybody as to what we've been doing all winter.
All right. Gate?
That's you.
That's me. We have 3 ladies hired. Graham and Mike are working on some repairs to the building. Otherwise, we're good to go. Building inspector?
Me again. From our friendly neighborhood building inspector, Curtis. Permits, main dwelling renovations 2, bunkhouse renovation 1, garage 1, bunkhouse 1. Value of permits, $214,000 and change. Permit fees collected, $2,020, and every little bit helps. Curtis goes on to say he wants to express his thanks to Council and the CAO and pretty well anybody else you can think of. It's a pleasure to work with all of us, and I it's on the report. I have to read it. So he seems to think we're okay, and we think he's all right too.
You sure you didn't add that in yourself, Graham?
No.
Yeah.
We submitted copies to anyone.
Okay, just checking. Thanks. Accessibility Committee, we haven't had a meeting in a while. I will be talking to our chair, Rod Bowman, in the near future, and Erwin wanted to add a comment on a course that he recently took.
Last week I attended a seminar dealing with the Accessibility for Manitobans Act. This was an act that was put into law in 2013, and there's a 10-year process of implementing it. Our municipality will have to be fully compliant by May of 2022, and it's going to be a bit of a, quite honestly, I didn't know anything about this when I went to the seminar, and I came away realizing that we have some work to do which will improve the accessibility, not just in terms of physical accessibility, but things like hearing disabilities, which I have a problem, and other things. Site seat is another issue. So we will be working to achieve these required changes over the next 3 years.
Thanks, Erwin. Heritage Committee and Trails Committee, Steve?
For Heritage, I have been busy getting quite a bit of material. The one issue that I came up with was I have a lot of negatives, and I didn't realize, but negatives are a little bit difficult to deal with. So I've been working with LabWorks and Ironstone in Winnipeg to develop this film, and trying to also find ways that maybe I could work with. The archives in Manitoba, and trying to see as to what we can get their help with and what we can't. In terms of the trails, the map is finally complete. All the names have been chosen. Everything is good to go. So that should be ready to be put on the community center website and possibly the Victoria Beach website for everybody to look at. And yeah, that's pretty well about it.
Great. Thank you so much. Any other comments, gentlemen?
Mayor Penny, thank you. I would just like to acknowledge the yeoman effort that Graham has put forth in handling both ends of our portfolio. Some of you know I've gone through a bit of a time over the last several weeks, and Graham has really stepped up, and he's done a marvelous job keeping things moving. And Graham, my kudos to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Way to go. Thanks, Graham. Thank you, Mike. All right. I need a mover and a seconder for the resolution that the May 2019 committee reports be accepted as presented. Moved by Councillor Randall, seconded by Councillor Kumka. Be it resolved, the May 2019 committee reports be accepted as presented. Any discussion? Any further? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to accounts and finances. Be it resolved, the following list of accounts be approved for payment. Accounts payable checks 7331 to 7382. In the amount of $143,272.77. 2019 employee payroll, I think that would be May. Anyways, 2019 employee payroll to date. How would you? It's not 2019 payroll. Probably May 15th or so, 14th. Thank you. May 14th payroll in the amount of $35,611.86, and I'll send that to the finance fella, please. He needs to sign that too.
Again, I've reviewed the list of accounts and they appear to be in order.
Thanks. Moved by Councillor Randall, seconded by Councillor Kumka. Any further discussion on the accounts and finances? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Business arising from the previous meeting, Red River North Trails Association funding request for trail surface improvements and gates. Council has received a few emails since our last meeting and the presentation with Mr. Lester, from Mr. Lester, and the other gentleman was J.P. Brené from Albert Beach. We have had time to review the relevant emails and make a decision, so I would like to hear from Council. I think I know where I am, but I'd like to hear from Council on your decision on this.
I spoke to the rest of the Trails Committee, and they all said no. I was in agreement with that. I think that the trails that we have are not absolutely perfect, but they're 99% there. And just with the work that we can do, I think that That's all we need. I think especially given that, we're running a close budget this year, but we're trying to be as responsible as possible. To suddenly spend that much more money would be irresponsible on our part, and I don't think would add any major value overall to the municipality.
Erwin?
Bottom line is we have no budget dollars available. The request came in long after the budgeting process was done. And, it's not like they're asking for $2,000 or $3,000. They're asking for $35,000, and we don't have that kind of loose change hanging around. Maybe Stuart does.
Graham?
Yes, I was I was part of the discussion, having reviewed Dan's emails. The budgetary factor, as Erwin has explained, is certainly one of them. But for a number of other reasons, and in view of the major contribution we made last year, my suggestion was that we respectfully decline the offer to participate this time around.
Thanks, Graham. Mike?
Well, while Stuart may not have the money, I think he has the right idea. My wife and I are using the trail system more and more and more now, and I was never one to pursue perfection. I've always settled for excellence, and I think we have a pretty excellent trail system right now. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have spoken to the lady, who is the head of the Trans-Canada Trails Association in Saskatchewan, and she assured me last year that we do not need squeeze gates. We can use rocks, which we have done and which we do have in there, thanks to Dan Lester on the Highway 59 trail. And we can put up signage. And I talked to our Public Works lead hand today, and he feels that they have the equipment, or could beg, borrow, or steal, or rent equipment that could possibly harden the trail, if you will, the new trail from AB to VB, compact it, thank you, without spending $25,000 to $35,000. So to round up this discussion, I'm hearing that we are respectfully not going to participate in the request or in the further development of the trail system as Dan Lester would like us to. Correct? Okay. Thank you very much. And we'll let Dan know that. Do we need a motion? No, not. But we can send Dan a letter just confirming that we thank him for all of his incredible work, but we are willing to stop at this point. Thank you. Moving on to other business. Bylaw 1579, repealing Bylaw 1538, which is the power-assisted bicycle bylaw. Be it resolved, the arm of Victoria Beach Council give first reading to Bylaw 1579, being a bylaw to repeal Bylaw 1538, regulating power-assisted bicycles. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Councillor, oh, you did it again, Axworthy, seconded by Councillor Bartmanovich.
I'm the really messy one.
You are the really messy one. Well, you're both pretty messy. I would like to ask Raymond to speak to this bylaw, if I may.
Bylaw 1538 was passed in 2012. There's several issues with the bylaw. First of all, the preamble to the bylaw is to permit the use of power-assisted bicycles. And so presently what happens is an individual who wants to use a power-assisted bicycle would contact the municipality. They get added to the vehicle restricted listing, and basically a permit's issued no matter what. So one of the issues is a power-assisted bicycle is not a motor vehicle. It's clearly defined under the Highway Traffic Act. Motor vehicle means a self-propelled vehicle other than a power-assisted bicycle. So you wouldn't legislate it under your vehicle restricted bylaw. And if the council of the day was concerned about other types of motorized vehicles being used on roadways, We also have an off-road vehicle bylaw, and the Off-Road Vehicle Act also takes precedence. And under the off-road vehicle legislation, it basically covers everything. It covers all-terrain vehicle, mini bike, dirt bike, trail bike, a miniature vehicles such as a dune or sport buggy, etc. Those are non-licensed vehicles. They can never be driven on the road. So there is no logic to this bylaw. It also has a schedule attached to it, which goes on to state that a moped and a limited speed motorcycle, also known as a motor scooter, can be driven on certain parts of land owned by the municipality at certain times of the year. Well, a moped's a licensed vehicle. You can never drive it on anywhere but a roadway legally. So the bylaw is not logical, and it's contradictory. It contradicts some of the provincial statutes. So that's the reason I'm suggesting that we repeal it.
Thank you. And just to be clear, we're not outlining power-assisted bicycles. They're pretty similar to the mobility scooters that are such a wonderful way for people to get around with limited mobility. So we are not by any means outlawing electric bikes. We are just not asking people to apply for a permit anymore. Any further discussion? All right. I will call the question then. All those in favor of the first reading? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Raymond, for clarifying the bylaw. Other business, June 19th district meeting. Be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council authorized Reeve McMorris to attend the June 19th district meeting. Further be it resolved, the municipality cover all costs to attend said meeting as per the terms of bylaw 1578. And I'm not sure if anyone else wants to attend that meeting, but I'm getting a mover and a seconder to start. Moved by Councillor Axworthy, seconded by Councillor Barton-Manovich. Any further discussion? Anybody else wish to attend the AMM June district meeting in beautiful downtown Lorette, Manitoba?
You make it sound so tempting.
There's always interesting discussion.
If I could be in the city by 6 o'clock, I would love to go.
They're usually over by about 3:30 or 4.
Then I would love to.
You want me to add you to the resolution? Okay. Steve?
I'll just say one thing, that when it comes to going to these AMM meetings and everything else that comes up, I think it's really important that we don't send too many counselors all the time, because it does drain on our finances. So I think 2 is reasonable, but I think more than that, and we're not being productive with the money.
Good, thank you. Any other discussion? So I'll read it again. Be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council authorized Reeve McMorris and Councillor Barton-Manovich to attend the June 19th district meeting. Further be it resolved, the municipality cover all associated costs to attend said meeting as per the terms of bylaw 1578. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
And I'll bring my own lunch.
They provide lunch. Thank you very much. Up next, radar speed sign. Do we have a resolution, Raymond, or? Okay. Be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council authorized the purchase of a solar radar sign from Airmaster Signs at a total cost of $3,087.75. Moved by Councillor Axworthy, seconded by Councillor Bartmanovich. Discussion. Steve?
So this sign is basically exactly the same as what we've already seen over on going into Albert Beach on the right side. It just took us a little while to get over to this. What this allows us to do, aside from just being a good deterrent for people from speeding, and what I believe that we're planning on doing is purchasing. Have we agreed to purchase some extra mounts? Or are we still discussing this?
That's up in the air right now, but
Okay. Well, it may be that we may purchase a couple extra mounts. What this would allow us to do is to move the sign all over the RM to the areas that are most affected by speeding. So Gary would, or possibly one of our people from Public Works would be able to move it once a week, and Gary would be able to pull all the stats off of that sign. So it doesn't take a picture like you'd have in the city, but it tells Gary as to when and where he should be out to tag people. So it's a much more effective means of policing, and especially when we're talking about speeding in our municipality, which we all know is an issue. Now he'll be able to dedicate those resources and be effective with it, as well as policing the rest of the area.
we've received lots of positive comments, or at least I have. We were at an Albert Beach meeting this weekend, and they love the sign over there, and it does slow people down, and it does make you stop and think. So we think it'll make a difference here too. Any other comments?
This expenditure was provided for in the budget, so this is not an extra expenditure.
And beyond this initial resolution, Raymond, your authorities extend to purchasing some additional bells and whistles to complement it as we go along. The idea being that we could perhaps move it from time to time to different areas to spread the benefit until such time as we purchase a second and a third one.
All right. Any further discussion, gentlemen? All right. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Oh, and credit to Steve Axworthy, who really dreamed up this idea. And thank you, Steve. You're definitely on the right track here.
Yep. Thanks, Steve.
Just remember to slow down.
Yeah.
We're watching.
All right, we are moving on to correspondence. Gentlemen, anything jump out at you in correspondence that has not been dealt with by return email or letter? No? Erwin, you're good? Okay, I don't have any. The only other one I had, the one thing I did have was a May 17th email regarding Wanasing, a shoreline. If we could answer the woman who wrote us the note and ask her to just comply with regulations with Mr. Selden Kowalchuk and those guys. Leanne, yeah. Just advise her to follow the same process. Okay. Moving on then to question. Sorry, go ahead.
And it's one that we talked about a little bit this afternoon, about dogs being on leash or on rope or chain or tether in the yard. We're starting to hear more and more stories of coyotes, and they seem to be getting more and more brazen, approaching people as they walk their pets. So for your dog's own safety, for your pet's own protection, keep them tied up, please.
Thank you. Moving on to question period. We ask that you keep your questions to topics that have been discussed tonight, if possible. Send us a note, send us an email, give us a phone call.
It was about the motorized bike.
Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Margaret Murray Haddad. I live at 13 Atia Road. This is a three-parter, if you don't mind. The first one is someone was asking me recently when we were talking about, well, the water's going to be on, it's going to be a lot better this year. Everything seems to be in order. She asked, what about the zebra mussels?
There were some zebra mussels found, but not enough at this point, I believe, to impact the system. It's, as you can tell, if you're on the system, it's running very well. So, but we are still monitoring it for sure. And we did have, the wet well was cleaned, is going to be or was cleaned out, and the holding tanks have all, the reservoirs have all been cleaned out.
Perfect. My second question is about the motorized or power-assisted bicycles. Where do the golf carts fit into that?
Golf carts are not licensed to be driven on roads in Manitoba, period.
So when golfers have a golf cart, they have to stay within the confines of the
Of the golf course.
So they can't go down the trails to their car or anything
They are
like that?
not supposed to, no.
Okay, just
Nope.
curious. And lastly, you breezed by the 100th anniversary pretty quickly, but you did mention it, so I just wanted to let people know that we've got 60 people signed up as being interested in helping us out with the musical. I have just over 40 people who have signed service agreements and participation agreements that they understand what they're getting themselves into. We were as clear as we could be about the rehearsal times and the what we think that they should be doing. So if anybody is more interested than that, we're just about ready to finish our casting, but I will put it out there if anyone wants to see the rehearsal schedule or wants to see a production participation agreement, please check in with me. Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret. I know you two have been putting in a lot of hours and sleepless nights, I believe I heard you say.
Yeah, but they're having lots of fun, isn't that right? We keep hearing that. Lots of fun, lots of fun.
Okay. Basically, it's about the bylaw regarding dogs off leash. I think you should warn the population in some way. In other words, put it out there that they will be ticketed, because it will really surprise them. Because right now, in the fall and the spring even, I have 3 cars that will drive up opposite my property. They will go and take their 5 dogs or whatever. They meet, it's a social gathering for them, and they walk down the path, right? This is their morning walk, okay? And if you have a lot of people doing this, I think you should really let the community know that the law will be enforced. Otherwise, you're going to have a number of people will be upset. What are you doing? Plus, my neighbor there, he had his dog off the leash, blah, blah, blah. So, just to let you know.
Good point. Thank you.
Just on that, so I'll put it in the write-up, and we'll try to get the information out there a little bit more. One thing is the law is the law, but with just addressing an issue that was brought up this week on sort of that idea of, well, my neighbor does it, and there was an incident, and the police won't enforce it. One thing to note is that Gary can only enforce what is either seen or there's evidence of. So if there's no pictures of the actual attack or video or anything along those lines, it just becomes sort of hearsay or he says, she said. So it's just if it comes up in the future, they are going to be enforcing it, and they absolutely are going to be doing their jobs to the letter. But it's just, again, they have to see it. So I'm not saying it directly to you, Stuart. I'm saying it openly.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I understand that. I mean, there's somebody else, right? We might bring this up, but I mean, I really think that, yeah, if you're going to enforce it, but maybe you should even wait until about July the 1st or the July long weekend and put notices up on the signboards that people see. Because I don't know how you're going to get that word out to everybody that, oh, for 10 years, you've let your old mutt sort of lie on the road, okay? No longer, right? I mean, this is going to be a shock to people. Seriously. Okay, and the other thing about mobility vehicles, there's now become a kind of a craze for little stand-on scooters, which go in cities. Okay, they're everywhere. Okay, and I was wondering what Victoria Beach's attitude might be to them. Obviously, gravel roads don't work too well with them. Okay, which is a good thing, but everywhere else, I mean, people are using them.
They're not a licensed vehicle, our CAO is telling us, so they can't be on the roads, and I think you're right. I think our our beautiful paths and roads within our municipality aren't going to be very friendly to these little scooters that I've seen all over Europe. They go like stink, some of them. Yeah.
We also have a schedule in the off-road vehicle bylaw. I don't have it here. It stipulates where you can go. We also have a bylaw, don't have it with me, to do with off-road vehicles, which would apply to what you're talking about, Stuart. And it's specific about where you can go and when you can go on municipal lands. I can't tell you what it is because I don't have it in front of me, but there is some control over and above what the statute provides the police the authority to do. You know, they can charge individuals, so.
Any further questions? I don't know if it's on now.
My name's Al Sloan, 203 6th VB. You referenced pathways. This is sort of on that same topic. I don't know what the position is with VB about people creating own pathways down hydro right-of-ways. It's becoming a bit of an issue behind our place. People are clearing it out, and I wondered if that's fine to do. I know you see some have, some haven't. I just wonder what the
If it's on their
regulations are.
property, they can do as they wish. The second that it goes off their property, now it's either municipal or provincial land, or hydro land, and you cannot cut down without permission.
Is that something
Yeah.
we could report to somebody, or?
All the laneways in the, even though hydro is on them in the municipality, belong to the municipality, they're municipal land, so you would contact the RM office
Okay,
if it's an issue.
it's an issue with my wife. Thanks.
Oh dear, okay. Any further questions? Can you? Yeah, you gotta pull it up. Somebody help me.
Okay. As we get older, it gets harder to walk. Is it possible that the golf course have access to cars, to the, there's a little path? You could put rocks at the other entrance so people can't leave there, but we would be able to go golf. I can't go and golf there anymore because of the walking distance. Just a suggestion,
Okay.
could open up a little bit more the path and your cars would be fitting in there.
Thank you. I don't see that happening, Ben, but
No.
thank you. Any further discussion? Erwin?
I just wanted to make a comment on the issue of dogs. And one of the problems that the municipality have is we do not have an animal control officer, and nor do we have any place in which to house dogs that you know, might be a problem. But we are looking into that, and hopefully, you know, in time we'll be able to remedy it. I think best advice is just friendly advise your you know, your fellow members of the community that we all have an obligation to look after our own pets. I had a dog once. He was so friendly with the dog catcher, he jumped into the front seat of the van every time he got picked up.
All right, any other comments or questions from the audience? All right, I'll remind you that our next council meeting is June 2nd, 4th, pardon me, in the city at 6:30 p.m. at 705 1661 Portage Avenue. May I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn the meeting, please? What did I say? Did I get the date wrong again? Moved by Councillor Randall, seconded by Councillor Kamka. Be it resolved, the May 21, 2019 regular council meeting be adjourned. Next regular council meeting, June 4th, 2019 at 6:30 705 1661 Portage Avenue. All those in favor? Are you sure?
Oh, yeah, we're.
Carried. Thank you.